Welcome to Sage Advice, Superhumans, and Storytelling, a podcast series developed for high school seniors preparing to enter into the adult world. In this series, we interview real-world superhuman experts who have been there and done that, and who are willing to share their stories and sage advice on post-secondary life. In this interview, I speak with Kristin Schloesser, also known as Gypsy, who is a tour manager and coordinator for a company called Five Senses Reeling out of Seattle, Washington. Hey, Kristin, how's it going?
Good. How are you, lady?
I'm great. It is awesome to meet you. This has been so fun. We actually don't know each other at all, which is cool. We have a mutual friend, Tarina. How did you meet Tarina?
Okay, so I met Tarina. I think the standard is how we meet people now is online, social media, right? So
Yep.
she and I actually, I guess we were working in the same field and we knew each other from a friend of a friend. And she actually came out to one of my shows that I was doing at the House of Blues in Los Angeles.
Oh, awesome.
So she came out to officially introduce herself.
Yeah, cool.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I'm excited that she connected us, and I thank you for taking this time to tell your story and, impart some wisdom on my fabulous 18-year-olds
I don't know
kiddos
about
here. So,
wisdom, but I mean some real talk and some harsh truths, maybe.
yep, that's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. Cool. So let's just kind of start at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about yourself, interests, what you've gotten into over time, but especially where you started, where you grew up, and give us a little picture of how you were at age 18 to see the parallels here.
It is such a wild ride. Life is such a wild ride. And I don't think I could even tell this in a linear fashion because
Perfect.
my life has gone in so many circles. I've taken every path known to man. So where I sit now, let's start with the goods, like the positives. So where I sit now, so I'm a tour manager and a tour coordinator. So I make my living touring with bands, mostly notable rock bands, metal bands, festivals, and I also work with LGBTQ artists and currently working with female impersonators.
Really?
Drag queens. Now we can't call them all drag queens. That's a whole
Right.
other thing. But yeah, so various performers. So I make my living taking performers out on the road and setting up their shows. 18-year-old me was a hot mess. An absolute just wild. I was a wild child. I don't know if I don't know if that just goes with everyone who's 18. I'm sure there are 18-year-olds who have like that. They're focused, they're driven, they're ambitious, they're together. That's not my story. There was no together. High school was just, I partied. Let's be honest. Like I partied most of my life. So here's the real deal. I was always involved in some sort of alcohol, some sort of drug usage from like the time I was 13, right? So pretty much any decision I ever made or any circumstance I found myself in was involving, drugs and alcohol.
Wow.
So I'm not sure that 18-year-old me ever made a clear-cut conscious decision. I just went with the flow. I did a lot of what was asked of me or what I was supposed to do, in high school and college. I went to college, I was supposed to go to college because that's what my family did. They're all professionals and doctors and, teachers and such. So I did do some of what was expected of me, but it just never satisfied me.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've had an insatiable appetite for life my entire life. I have a tattoo I should show you. It says hard, fast, and dirty in the Motley Crue font. No, this is who you're working with right now. Hello, 18-year-olds. You too can grow up and be just like me. So Here, can you see this?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Hard, fast, and dirty.
That's
That's
spot on.
how 18-year-old me rock and rolled for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. So you did end up going to college. How did that turn out for someone, who was obviously kind of, I think in your core, if I'm getting this right, that was not your jam. That's not something you wanted to do. What did that look like for you?
I don't know that it was it wasn't that it wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't have any other real choices, I felt like. Because I came from a small town. So I graduated in a high school of about 98 people. I grew up in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. So the impetus for me was get that out.
Yeah.
I didn't even go to my high school graduation party. Like, I bounced. My car was packed. I got my diploma and I was out, like, later. So I did go to college. College was a great time. I partied really hard. I maintained a really decent, really solid, very high grade point average, let's be honest. But without sounding boastful, I mean, I'm fairly intelligent, so I can get into a system and I can make it work for me. So college for me was just, all right, so we write some papers, we show up, we do some studies, but we do a lot of drugs on the weekends or on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. It did take me 5 years to finish because senior year, I ran off to Mexico for a year.
Wow, really?
I got accepted into a foreign language exchange program.
Okay.
So I went down for summer to study Spanish. Yeah, that's really what I wanted to do in Mexico for the summer.
Yeah.
I ended up not coming back for about a year.
Wow.
So I came back and finished college.
That's crazy.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. So you ended up graduating, which is great.
Yep.
What did you end up going to school for?
So I have a bachelor's degree in history.
Okay. Sure.
Well, it was fun. I enjoed it. I liked it. I wasn't looking for a career. Look, here's the thing. I wasn't going to be a doctor or a lawyer. I wasn't going to be, a 9-to-5er. I wasn't going to, and I've known that, in my core, in my soul, I've known that my path was not linear.
Yeah.
So it didn't really matter to me what my degree was in. I got one, right? It's sitting on my shelf. I still have it, like, right on.
Yep.
Have I used it? Well, no. Who uses a degree in history besides teachers or lawyers, which I'm obviously not.
For sure.
Yeah. So I got the degree. I went to school in Oklahoma State University.
Okay.
And I started a business right out of college.
Wow.
Actually, I started a couple businesses in college to kind of help support myself. I opened up a little boutique, so like a clothing and knick-knack novelty store with vintage clothing. Now, this was in the 90s because I'm old. The 90s? What's that? So I ran my little business, for a few years out of college. And then I got a wild hair and I was like, okay, I'm done with this. This is neat. It's paying the bills. It's cool. I'm going to move to Los Angeles now and go to film school.
Sure.
Right? As you do.
As you do. In the 90s.
I moved to Los Angeles, packed up an old beater car, drove all the way to LA and went to film school at USC.
Oh my gosh. So how'd that go? Did you see it through?
No. Are you kidding?
No.
This is not a path we're on. This is every path. No, I didn't. I mean, I finished summer school. It was a summer intensive program with the option to stay. I didn't stay. I ended up acting in films. So here's the next chapter. So I ended up getting these gigs working in music videos.
Okay.
Working on TV shows, working on films, back in the day when, you could join SAG and AFTRA relatively easily. And everyone that I knew in LA was, working in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
So it it was very common. It was very easy. You know, it wasn't like I was so special that I could work in a movie. It was just, that's what you did so I did that for a number of years. Yeah, I've had a lot of incarnations.
Yeah, for sure. Which, it can be very beautiful and help with the
Awesome.
growth process, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit about your experiences. You've mentioned a couple times that you did face a lot of adversity, obviously getting involved with drugs and alcohol and everything in between. How did that kind of impact the trajectory? We know it wasn't linear, but how did that impact the trajectory of your life?
Well, it's interesting that we got to the point of acting in Hollywood, because that's when it really took over. So, I mean, I am unabashedly honest about my recovery story. So I'm
Absolutely.
sober. I just celebrated 12 years.
Wow,
Um,
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
12 years on April 4th. And my addiction really kicked into overdrive when I was in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I was able to maintain and continue, uh, you know, I don't know, doing my thing for a number of years while my addiction was really um, taking hold. I started another business. I got married. I moved to Malibu. I settled down, and I really was just living that, magazine story,
Yeah.
right? Like Malibu trophy wife on
Woo.
drugs.
Woo.
Yeah, woo is right.
Yeah.
And I laugh about it because I have to, because it's part of my story, and because I'm sitting here right now.
Yeah.
And if we can't laugh at my fuck ups, my tragedy, then I don't know, I didn't earn it.
Right. For sure.
So I had a really long run with the alcohol and the drugs, but it bottomed me out, obviously 12 years ago when I was living, in California, and I ended up in rehab.
Yeah.
So went to rehab, I got sober, came out of rehab, and went, oh shit. Like the Talking Head song, this is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife. Well,
I
how
love
did I
that
get
song.
here? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the kids might not know it. Google it, kids.
Yes.
Google your friends.
I'm gonna link that in. They need to hear that
You may
song.
find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife. And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? Letting the days go by.
Right? And so that was my wake up. Like I came out of rehab sober, and this house with this husband and this life that just was not mine. And I'm like, this is not me.
Ooh.
And I walked away. I walked out of the big mansion with one rolling suitcase, nothing to my name, and I started over.
Wow.
And I started over in rock and roll.
Wow. Interesting.
Interesting that I did rock.
Yeah, of all the things.
I did rock. I'm still doing rock and roll sober. Like, who does that?
Crazy.
Don't you? I did.
Crazy.
Well, my life has not been the norm.
No.
So yeah, I started over 12 years ago, just 12 years ago. So like, look, 18 to how old?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not go into that. But it took me that long to actually get started, is my point, right? For me, that was like the rebirth. That's when I really got to start living, not just running or chasing dreams or, being indecisive. It's like, I always wanted to be around music. Who doesn't want to be around music? Who doesn't listen to music every day?
Absolutely. Especially now.
Right. That's what we've got.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
So that kind of negates the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's actually incredibly impressive after, really struggling with that and then jumping right into the rock scene.
I did.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about that, because that's a very unique career, very unique situation to be in. Tell me what's been challenging about it or rewarding about it. Why it called to you and got you hooked.
Well, it got me hooked because I have an addictive personality.
Yeah. Right.
And I like the ride, and rock and roll is pretty glamorous. No, I mean, it was an opportunity, actually. It fell in my lap. Let's be
Mhm.
honest. I didn't seek it out.
Right.
I stuck really close with my other sober companions, my new sober friends in recovery.
Yeah.
And one of them offered me a very small job at their very small studio / venue in California. So I started working there as a door girl, ticket taker.
Perfect.
You know, I learned promoting, I learned booking, I learned venue coordination, hospitality, how to manage a venue, and that's when social media was really starting to take over. So I started studying social media, digital marketing, and all of that. And a band came through the little venue one night, and they're like, "Hey, we need a merch girl," and I'm like, "Oh, let me get my bag, my one roller bag that I still had that I left with."
Wow.
And I hopped in the van and I went on a punk rock tour, and I I never looked back. I just kept riding,
That's incredible.
right?
That's so incredible.
Reckless, maybe.
Woo!
Maybe, I don't know. These were complete strangers, but they, it was a reputable band. They were known. It wasn't like I was, you know, I don't know. I was probably far more reckless back in the day, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that's it. I started out as a merch girl.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah.
So, and you've kind of built your way up over the past 12 years. You're working as a tour manager and coordinator now, which is that's a pretty big role to fill.
Yeah.
For people who aren't aware, tour managing is, well, not an easy job.
No, ma'am.
I imagine it can be super high stress at times.
Very, very high stress. There's a meme that floats around. I should have it ready, but it's something like being a tour manager is easy, except you're, on a bike headed downhill.
Yes.
The bike is on fire. You're on fire, and you're in hell. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, tour managing is a lot of it's a lot of back end coordination. It's a lot of logistics. So there's a lot of geeky spreadsheets and accounting and budgeting, travel times, set times, gear, merchandise, artist personalities, likes and dislikes. How are we going to travel? How are we going to get multiple people and multiple bands from one city to the next, or one state or one country to the next? Because I've gone all over the world now. With my job, they've actually paid me to take care of people and have trusted me across international borders. So we've all come back okay. So
yeah. So you must be doing something right, hey?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
I love it.
Kind of circling back a little bit, because just this is topical. This is relevant to some of the stuff that we talk about in my senior English class with the opioid epidemic, and it's very prevalent in our area too. How do you? I mean, what? I don't even know how to phrase, I guess, the question I want to ask, but I guess let's go from the perspective of advising, young people now who may be finding themselves in that path. What kind of advice, I mean, given your experiences, what kind of advice or perspective can you provide them with to hopefully either instill some empathy and understanding that this is something that people go through and we do need to support those people, or to help avoid, experiencing some of those things? Well, it's kind of a loaded question with
it's a
lot of different angles, but
there's so many angles there.
Yeah.
Drugs are bad, kids. Drugs will always win. That's the one thing I would like to impart. My drug of choice was opioids primarily, and then a long laundry list of every other substance known to man. But opioid recovery is my long-term recovery. So, it's playing with fire. I understand that there's a lot of pain, and I understand that there's a lot going on in the world today. And I can't even imagine being 18, right now, and going out into the world, because it's a different world than when I was 18. social media and expectations and pop culture. And, I don't know. The only thing I can say is that if you do find yourself on the path of destruction, towards an opioid addiction, if you are a true addict, it's different than if you're somebody who is experimenting, right? Quote unquote, normal people can experiment with stuff and walk away. A true addict cannot. It consumes us and it becomes our path. It becomes our destiny. But recovery is possible. Yeah. So if there's that light at the end of the tunnel at all, I mean, hopefully I can be that. Like, I was hardcore and I'm still here. I would never tell anyone to not do drugs. And I know that that's probably very unpopular, but telling someone to not do drugs, I don't feel like it works.
No, absolutely.
And it's almost like shaming, like, don't you do that? Well, look, like, come on, I've done it all. So who am I to tell you not to do it?
Right.
But exactly. I am here to tell you that it will always win.
Yeah, for sure.
And it doesn't discriminate. No. Right. I was living in my best life in Malibu in my fancy $1 million house, right? And traveling around on private jets on the weekend, what? And it kicked my ass, right?
Yeah, insane.
Okay. So insane. It doesn't matter where you come from, like the drugs over the long term, and look at all the artists we've lost, and there's probably the kids in your school probably know.
Oh yeah.
There've been a lot of popular artists, young dudes, especially the last 4 or 5 years. And it got them. Because it will.
What do you think was your, I guess, your light? What kind of got you to the point? Obviously, we know a lot of narratives with drug abuse end in, although they don't necessarily end in, but you have that kind of that rock bottom point that we hit, and then recovery after that. But what do you think, was your kind of light to pull you out of that?
I didn't have a light. I had an intervention. My family intervened, and my dad is a physician, and he had me 5150. He had me committed into a psychiatric ward, and there was no option for me but to detox.
Yeah. Wow.
And from there, they flew me to a rehab.
Wow.
And at that point, when you're faced with that, when that's your reality, you wake up in a rehab and go, well, I just did 7 days in the loony bin. And I'm about to do 30 days in a rehab.
Yeah.
I give up. I'm done. I'm out.
Yep. I surrender.
Gypsy out. A complete surrender. Complete surrender.
Wow.
And I chose recovery at that point. I chose to try a different path, because I knew that there was going to be some good stories to tell if I stuck around.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, that's wild, man. That's so wild.
And it's not pretty, and it's a harsh truth for a lot of people. They don't want to hear it. Or, people are embarrassed or ashamed. I'm not embarrassed.
No.
In fact, hard, fast, and dirty, I did it, but I'm still here. Do I glorify it? No. Do I recommend it? No. There are other ways to chase your dreams,
sure.
But I don't regret my path because it's gotten me to where I am.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. That's really awesome and pretty exceptional. So if we kind of take you now and all of your experiences that you've had at this point, I always, towards the end of these conversations end with this question, and you may circle back to something you've already said. But if you could go back now to 18-year-old Gypsy and give some advice that like maybe you wish you would have had. Now, granted, a theme here is, I'm happy for these experiences because they've made me, but if there's one thing you wish you would have known prior to, going to college and then following the, not super linear route afterwards, what do you think that would have been for you?
I don't know. It's really hard to say because like we just discussed, I would not take away my experiences and I wouldn't want to change the hardships that I went through.
For sure.
At all, because once you get to the other side, from where I sit, It's a beautiful, fabulous tale.
Mm-hmm.
But I always felt this sort of dissonance. I always felt this friction. I always had like an internal war of what was expected of me, what I thought society at large needed me to be, wanted me to be, required of me. And at the end of the day, I'm not that fucking special. Real
That
talk.
is it. That is it.
Society at large didn't give two shits about Kristin because they didn't even know who I was. And so what expectations was I really trying to fulfill? Whose obligations was I trying to meet? So if I could tell myself anything, it was that there is no pressure. That the pressure is made up. The pressure is the image you see when you're scrolling through Instagram, or that TikTok dance, or like whatever it is that the kids are focused on. I'm sorry, I'm not cool, kids, but
Me neither. It's fine.
Whatever. I know y'all TikTok. They're gonna
they
laugh
totally
at me.
do. They totally do.
But yeah, the expectation is unreal, right?
Yep.
It's self-imposed. I feel like, and if you do have, I don't know, if there's pressure from parents or socioeconomic pressures, or I don't know, any kind of expectation that you feel like you need to meet, well, I didn't need to meet it.
Yeah.
Like my favorite artist and musician of all time, who actually is the one who gave me the nickname Gypsy, when I worked for him in 1998, 97, 98, was Bob Dylan. And he
worked
said,
for Bob Dylan?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what?
Yeah, that's in the chapter. That's in the book. You cannot buy it on Amazon because I ain't written it yet.
No.
But yeah, Bob Dylan. I got nothing, Ma, to live up to. Right?
Yep.
That's what I would tell myself. I would say, you got nothing to live up to. Do you?
Man, that's crazy. That's
Bobby
awesome. Yeah, Bob Dylan. Dude, that's so cool. It just gently put it in there. Bob Dylan gave me this nickname.
It fits,
It does.
It fits. I mean, he told me I look like a gypsy that he used to see down in New Orleans, that used to read his tarot cards. I can't make this shit up.
Nope, you can't. Man, well, I hope you do write that book, because I'm certain that it would be an awesome read. Yeah, that's incredible. Cool. Well, do you have any other thoughts, other things you want to share before we sign off here?
I don't really, other than I don't know. It's unprecedented times we're living in. It is crazy, and I feel for your kids.
Yeah. Right
now, going out into a lot of uncertainty, having their school year jacked like this, and you having to shift the whole way that you're navigating, their academics. I don't know. I just feel for. Yeah. I feel for them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I don't know, but rock and roll's always here, kids. So
yeah.
We got your back.
Darn straight. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
For telling your story. It's a pretty special story. Despite all the hardships, it sounds really beautiful. It seems like your life has really turned into something quite awesome, and I love that. That's just brings my soul some happiness too. So, yeah,
thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Absolutely. So I have a kitschy little sign off that I do now, because we're lacking human connection right now in real life. So we're gonna do a little electronic human connection where we sign off with a little high five.
All right, which arm?
Whichever one you want. We'll go at the camera and we'll count to 3. You ready for it?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.